All right, if you have your Bibles, I want you to open to Romans chapter 12, which has been our launching point for every single gift. And this morning I'm going to teach on the last spiritual gift. So there are 7 spiritual gifts. Some people call them the motivational gifts. And we've taught about prophecy and service, teaching, exhortation, giving, and administration. And then this week I want to teach on the last gift, which is the gift of mercy, which is a gift that I don't know a whole lot about. It is definitely not my strong gift. I don't know, maybe once or twice in my life I've been able to show mercy on somebody, but I really struggle with showing mercy, honest to goodness. So it is not my primary gift. I don't think I'm gifted with it at all, but honest to goodness, I feel like a lot of you in here are. And so I'm excited as I've studied. Some of y'all's pictures have just popped up in my head, and I've thought all week about y'all. Yeah, she has the gift of mercy, and I'm very thankful for that. So turn to Romans chapter 12, and let's look at verse number 8. And let's just look at all the verses, 6, 7, and 8, as we're summing them up this morning. Verse 6 says, Paul says, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on ministering, or he that teacheth on teaching, or he that exhorts on exhortation, or he that giveth, let him do it with simplicity, he that rules with diligence, and finally, he that shows mercy with cheerfulness. So the 7th gift this morning we want to talk about is the gift of mercy. And then if you'll look at the clarifying verse, given a little few verses down, it's verse number 15. And he gives this instruction to those who exercise the gift of mercy. And he says this, you got to rejoice with them that do rejoice and weep with them that weep. And we'll come back and we'll talk about those verses. Let me start with some definitions or descriptions that Tom Rush and other people give about the gift of mercy. Here's what they would say. Let's kind of cover some definitions. This gift enables one to sympathize with and to suffer alongside those who fall into affliction or distress. That's one definition. Another definition is this: one who is able to care and share in the needs of others. They are very sensitive and they try to see things from God's point of view. That's another definition or description of this gift. In Greek, the word is eleio, which means to show mercy, to have compassion, or to have pity on, or to help one who is afflicted. That comes straight from the Greek. Here's what Darrell Robinson defines the gift is: the God-given ability to discern the needs of others, to feel compassion for them, and to provide caring support for those in distress. Now, if we're just honest this morning, I believe that you are this way, or you're not. I mean, there are people who have the gift of mercy and people who have a natural tendency to empathize and sympathize and care and come alongside other people. And then you have the second category that sadly I am in, and most of the time it's, let's get over it, okay? We can cry about this all day long, but let's just get up. Let's just get up and get over it. Suck it up, buttercup, okay? Let's move on with things. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I wish I had a little more of it. But you're either you are or you aren't. And those are the definitions and descriptions of the gift of mercy. Now, I want you to look at Romans chapter 12. Look at verse number 8. I want you to look at what he says there when he says, he that shows mercy with cheerfulness. See, what you got to watch and you got to be careful about is they can't take your cheer away. Okay? So he says, those who show mercy always do it with cheerfulness. I don't know about you, but when I get around people, and here's how I kind of know I don't have this gift, when I get around them, well then when I leave, I'm just feeling a heaviness about me, like, man, alive. Golly, they just sucked the life right out of me. And I leave and I'm not as cheerful as I was when I came. And that's evidence that I probably don't have the gift. But to the person who has the gift, he said, you got to have the ability to get down with them in their low place and empathize and sympathize with them. But yet you maintain your cheer about you. And I don't know about you, but when I get around them, I tend to find myself losing all my joy and coming away as bad as they are. And he says in verse number 12 there, or verse number 8, he said, do it with cheerfulness. Now look at what he says in verse 15. I think this is so key. He said, rejoice with those who rejoice. I made myself a note. I said, rejoice not resent. See, if we're honest, we would say, oh yeah, I can rejoice with people who are rejoicing. Really? When they graduate nursing school and you failed out, you can rejoice with those people who are rejoicing? Really? When they're posting their marriage date and you're still single? You can rejoice with those who rejoice? When they're all excited about the birth of their first child and you still haven't yours? You haven't had yours? Are you able to really rejoice with those people who are rejoicing? Hey, what about this one? When they get the job that you applied for too. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not always easy for me to rejoice with those people who are rejoicing. There comes a tendency in my heart not to rejoice with them, but to resent them for what they got and to question why I didn't get it. But a person with this gift might sit here and say, oh no, I don't have trouble with that. Man, if you tell me some exciting news, I can smile, I can cheer you on, and I can rejoice with you. Well, you probably have the gift, and I don't. We've established that already. Look at the next one. Then he says, not only should you rejoice with those who rejoice, but weep with them that weep. You know, for me, that's equally as challenging. I don't always want to weep with people who weep. I have a now get over it attitude. Okay, you've cried long enough. I mean, let's get ourselves together and let's move on. But that's not true for the people who have the gift of mercy. They are able genuinely, and I mean genuinely because I'm saying not fake. I can say, oh, bless. It doesn't even sound natural coming from me, does it? It doesn't even sound natural. I don't use that phrase.
Then I'll be like she said.
I know. And I don't ever say bless their heart. God, oh, here's another one. God love them. I don't know that I've ever said that. But you know, people who have that genuine, and I'm going to emphasize the word genuine, some people have that genuine ability that if you say, hey man, I just got a promotion, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you, and they mean it. And then when you say, I'm really struggling, they say, man, that really pains me. That really breaks my heart. And they genuinely mean that. And those are your people with the gift of mercy. Right. So here we have 9 characteristics of the people with the gift of mercy. And I think it just nails them to a T. And I love it because I love that we're seeing things now in light of people's gifts. And we're accepting them because that's their gift. That's what God gave them to minister to others there with that gift. All right, here's for characteristic number 1. Obviously, an ability to empathize with others when they hurt. An ability to empathize with others when they hurt. Now, empathy means I may not have ever been there, but I can put myself in your place as though I had. See, I've never, lost a parent, thank God. I've never lost a sibling. I've never lost a child. I've never dealt with a wayward child. I mean, there's so many things, and same for you, that you've never really had that experience. But empathy is the ability to put yourself in their shoes. What if I had, though? What if I was in her situation and I had the same circumstances? How would that make me feel? And as teachers, they're constantly staying on us about this word empathy. You've got to learn to put yourself in your students' shoes. You want to know a lot that comes out of empathy is students who act out. And I'm not getting off on a tangent about, the education setting or the classroom setting, but students who act out, they say, if you can just withhold your anger and put in empathy and try to figure out how would you feel if you were this kid. And a lot of times they're coming out of the craziest situations. They've got a million things going on that you have never had to experience. But empathy is the ability to say, let me pretend like I'm in their shoes. How would that make me feel? So the person with the gift of mercy has that ability to empathize with others. Number 2, they're attracted to people in need. They're attracted to people in need, and they're often unusual people. People with a gift of mercy find themselves around people who just want to share everything with them. I mean, I'll ask y'all because I wouldn't know. Do y'all ever find yourself in that situation? I was out to eat one time with somebody, And the waitress just kept on and kept on and kept on. I mean, talking about this broken relationship she was in and this crazy, child custody case. And I said to the person I was eating with, I said, why does she keep on telling you that? She said, I guess it's just my gift. I mean, I just draw these kind of people to me. That's what he's saying right here. See, people have a knack. They know not to come to me and tell me my problems. I mean, even at Target that day when that guy was saying, I feel so sick, he said, beeping my stuff, he's scanning my chips. He said, gosh, I just feel so warm and I'm clammy. And I said, well, what time do you get off? And he said, 6 o'clock. And, and I thought, shut up. I mean, come on. I mean, he wasn't pouring his soul out to me. But people, they know who they can tell to, their situations to, that they're going to receive mercy back from. And I love that. They're attracted to people in need. And they're often unusual people. Number 3, they have a desire to bring healing and help to those who are in distress. A genuine desire. People with a gift of mercy really want to help these people. And sometimes people without the gift think just, well, in about 30 seconds I'll be walking away from this person and I can go on with my life and they can go on with theirs. But the person with a gift of mercy thinks, man, I wish there were some way that I could genuinely bring some help and bring some healing to these people who are in distress. Now, who we want to look at from the Bible who exemplified this is John, the Apostle John. And you know what happened when Jesus was dying on the cross? Do you know what he said to John? John, behold your mother. And he said to his mother, your son. Because what Jesus was doing was turning over the responsibility of who we think of as the Virgin Mary, his mother. He was turning over the care of Mary from himself as his mother over to John, because he knew that John had the gift of mercy and that John would genuinely want to take responsibility for her, and he would want to care for her and help her in the situation that she would find herself in that I can't relate to, as she watched her son be crucified and die such a horrible death as he did. Here's another thing that's true about the gift of mercy, and this is just a note I wanted to put in there. Tom Rush said this. He said, there are many distressed people in the world, so there are many open doors for the people with a gift of mercy to serve others. I want you to think about that. There are so many distressed people in our world, people who are hurting, people who have found themselves in backward situations, some of them to no fault of their own. And there are so many broken and hurting people in the world that Tom Rush says there are many open doors for people who have the gift of mercy. And I make light of it because it's not my gift, but let me tell you something. I am so thankful for the people who have the gift of mercy, who have been kind enough to listen to me in my times of distress and just genuinely empathize with me and not be a teacher and want to instruct me on how I could have avoided it, not be a prophet who tries to tell you this is what you need to change, but just a genuine, empathetic listener. I'm thankful for those people. So they have a desire to bring help and healing to those in distress. The 4th characteristic, they are deeply loyal to close friends. They are deeply loyal to close friends. Now, I found this interesting as the book writer Tom Rush, as he talked about the Apostle John, he said, I want you to notice how close John was to Jesus. And it came naturally out of his gift of mercy. Turn with me to John chapter 13. And you're familiar with this verse, I know. John chapter 13. Verse number 23 displays this characteristic of being deeply loyal to your close friends. John chapter 13, verse number 23, it says this, now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. And you know who that was? It was John. Because John was a man who had a genuinely merciful way about him, who cared for other people, and who was deeply loyal and committed to his friends. Look in chapter 19 of that same book. John chapter 19, verse number 26. It says in verse number 26, when Jesus therefore saw his mother, this is the verse I alluded to earlier, and the disciple standing by, whom he loved, he said unto his mother, woman, behold thy son. He turned over care to him because he was genuinely a man who cared to bring help and healing to people in difficult situations. And then if you look in verse number 20 of that same chapter 19, verse number 20. I hope I've written that down right. No, that's not right. Forget that. All right, I wrote down the wrong reference. All right, that said something about Pilate crucifying Jesus. That's the wrong verse. Okay, let's look at the next characteristic. Number 5. They are deeply emotional. Yeah, can we just say amen? They are deeply emotional with great concern over people hurting on the inside. See, people wouldn't really classify me as an emotional person. You know, I do cry. I genuinely do. I can be moved by things, but, you know, I'm not going to... See, and here's a fault of mine. I don't always call it emotional. I call it dramatic. You know, I'm just saying. Now, I want you to think about who... Not always are they're not just emotional. I think of that as being dramatic, like their emotions just get involved with things. And see, they're very emotional with great concern, and they might do things like this. And I'm putting this in. This is my own notes, not Tom Rush's, but I'm a woman looking at these things, a little different than a man. They might do things like this. Oh my God. Oh, that just... I mean, they might make faces that go with it. They might just, you know, take their hands and grasp their chest like, oh, gosh. I mean, see, I'm telling you. And as I was studying this week, I could just see these little mannerisms that they make that I don't make. I could just see them doing that. It just breaks my heart, you know. And so that's how he defines it. They're deeply emotional and they have great concern over people who are hurting on the inside. Now I want you to listen to this truth about John. If I'm ever feeling bad about myself, I like to read the book of 1 John. You know why? It uses the word love. Love, 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 love. It's just one of those happy books. It's all about loving people and God loving us. And he uses the word love. And I don't know if you know this, but John uses the word love more than any other gospel writer. Because he is that man who feels so strongly about loving other people. And here's the truth. All gifts are for the furthering of God's kingdom. And I want you to think about this. Often the opportunity to share Christ arises after a genuine expression of concern has been shown. See, these people kind of have a door in. They've shown their own concern, their own genuine empathy and compassion over this person, and then that seems like a perfect little segue into saying, and listen, not only do I care for you this way, but let me tell you something, Jesus cares for you in this way. I can love you and genuinely feel compassion for you only because Jesus first loved me in this way. So it's a perfect segue, because some of us would think, well, what does this gift do? I mean, what do you do? Just go around feeling sorry for people all the time? No, it has a perfect lead-in to telling people that I can love you this way because Jesus has loved me in this way. So that's the way that the gift is used. Here's the 6th characteristic. They have a desire to remove the source of the pain or the hurts. They not only want to care for you where you are, but they have a desire to remove the source of the pain, the source of the hurt. And here's what Tom Rush said. Protection is almost a natural instinct for people with this gift. They are people who are just natural protectors, who want to come along somebody and want to shield them from things that could come their way, and I can see that as well. The 7th characteristic, I found this interesting. We'll be nice to these people now, okay? Because their gift is different than ours, but we don't need to persecute them for their gift. And I'm doing the most persecution over here. They have, characteristic number 7, a tendency to avoid firmness and decisions for fear of offending someone. A tendency to avoid firmness and decisions for fear of offending someone. So you might go to the person with a gift of mercy and you might be dragging a kid by the ear and say, this kid has been sitting down there in the Sunday school room ripping the seats on all the chairs. I mean, he has just stood in there with a pencil and just stabbed holes in every chair in the Sunday school room. What do you think we ought to do to this kid? Well, I don't know. I mean, and then they just want to back their way out of it. They don't want to be the one making any decision. They don't want to make any firm choices because they don't want anybody to be upset with them. And I can only imagine how it would be to have a classroom teacher whose gift was the gift of mercy. See, they don't want anybody to be offended. They don't like to rock the boat. They want everybody to be content. And can't you see that about these people? Just, it don't matter to me. Whatever y'all think. I'm good with anything. Yes, whatever's just fine. Very, 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 I don't know. I was going to say weak, but I didn't mean to say weak. Just non-confrontational, passive. Don't want to rock the boat. Just let it be so everybody will be content. That's all I got to say about that.
But when there's need,
we'll
go head to head.
There you go. The 8th characteristic, they have a tendency to measure acceptance by physical closeness. Now, I found this interesting because I know only one person in my life who says that they like to give people touch therapy. I only know one person who says, you're having a bad day. Well, here, let me give you some touch therapy. Here, let me just rub all over you. And I don't know if they're trying to really just annoy you or if they really think their touch therapy is an effective, method here. Maybe a tendency to measure acceptance by physical closeness. So, it may be true, and I don't know, I'm just guessing this here. It may be true that these people would have the love language of physical touch. He says that they measure their acceptance by physical closeness. And then he points to John, how John was constantly leaning on the bosom of Jesus. He was always literally right up under him. So perhaps, I don't know, I'm not one of these people, perhaps these people genuinely have a desire for physical closeness, proximity closeness with people. That's what Tom Rush says. Here's the 9th one. I think this is so darn cute. They will be attracted to prophets. And I was studying for this lesson, and I came into the fellowship hall Wednesday night, Life Center. I bet we can't call it fellowship hall anymore either, huh? It's not a fellowship hall. This isn't Sunday school either. These are life groups. And that's not a fellowship hall. That's a life center. Anyway, so I went into the Life Center and sat down at a table. Do we have another word for a table? Or can I just say table?
We'll take the one.
Okay. I'm just kidding. So I sat down, and I've started outlining this lesson, by Wednesday. So they come into the room, sits down, Kelly and Kenny, mercy and profit. And I literally sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, they really are attracted to yes.
She had one.
She had one. And so I just found that so interesting. Here's what he said. He said, because opposites attract. That's what he said. He said, John spent more time with Peter than any other disciple. Peter was a prophet through and through, making quick decisions, quick to speak out, going to state that opinion, going to make that truth known. And John was the guy with the gift of mercy who just wanted to love people and just be close to people. And John spent more time with Peter than anybody else. So I actually sat there and I took a picture of Kenny and Kelly from behind. And I showed it to Kelly. She didn't really like the picture, which most people don't like a picture of from behind that they're not thinking about. So anyway, so I deleted it. But isn't that awesome? They're attracted to prophets. I just thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, so now those are the 9 characteristics of those with the gift of mercy. And with the truths and the characteristics of the gift come misuses and misunderstanding. Ways that people have the gift and they kind of use it in the wrong way. Or ways that they will be misunderstood as they use their gift. And we want to look at these 7. Here's the first one. They may fail to be firm and appear to be wishy-washy, trying not to offend people. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm just being honest. As they say, they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be firm. They don't want to offend anybody. I thought, they're wishy-washy is exactly what they are. They would say, that's wrong, but we don't want to discipline it. And so that's just an understanding that we need to have about these people. It's not that they are wishy-washy. They just come off that way because they really just deep down genuinely don't want to offend people. And so they often, listen to this, fail to take disciplinary action. But here's the warning that comes with it. They have a danger of being taken advantage of. There's a danger of those people being taken advantage of. Man, if I was a kid and one of my parents had the gift of mercy and the other parent had the gift of prophecy or any of the other gifts for that matter, you know who I'd always be running up under? I'd be running up under that one with the gift of mercy. And if I was a kid and I went into a classroom, and I don't even know if kids have this on their radar, but if you could somehow figure out, hey, this teacher right here has a gift of mercy, man, I'd push every button, I'd cross every line, I'd break every pencil and stick paper clips in the outlets. I mean, you know what I mean? I just would, because you can take advantage of these people easily, but we don't want to use it in the wrong way. I mean, we just want to be aware. Y'all be aware you could be taken advantage of. Here's the second misuse or misunderstanding: a tendency to take up the offenses of those who are hurt. Now, this means taking up for them overly. See, we got to be real. Some people get into messes because of the choices that they have made. My dad said one time, we would be standing by playing the harp and crying for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. God had warned them. You hear me? God had warned them over and over and over and sent prophets to speak to them. And Daddy said my dad said some of us would stand by just playing the harp and just crying for them. But you can't overly take up for people who, it's just a known thing. They've gotten here by the choices that they have made. And so you got to be careful of that. You can't justify what people do. You can love them through it, of course. Support them 100%, but don't take up for them. Let's just be honest. Hey, they got there because they've made some poor choices. That's the second misuse. Here's the third one. They depend too heavily on emotions rather than reason and logic. Well, once again, they let their emotions drive them. Oh, that just makes me so sad. Yeah, but what about the reasonable side of you? What about the logical side? Look at what's happening here. This person has I don't know, I'm just making up examples, but this person has pumped people and they've used people and they've abused the system. Look at where they are. Oh, but it just breaks my heart. Well, I mean, let's look and let's be logical here. Let's be reasonable here about the situation. Here's what Tom Rush said. There's a danger that these people will reject sound doctrine that appears harsh. See, Jesus Christ was the perfect example, and this verse is mentioned, and he's the great example that goes with it. He said, you have to bring the truth in love. And here's the thing. Too much truth is harsh and it's legalistic. Too much love is liberal. I mean, just being honest. Too much love and you're just liberal. You just want to accept anything. Too much truth and you're too hard-nosed and you just want to crush people. But Jesus said you have to tell the truth in love. And He was the perfect man that exemplified that. And see, here's what we're talking about here. For a preacher to stand up and say, guys, this is wrong, and there's a judgment that comes with it. And if you reap this, you will sow this. The person with the gift of mercy can't say, oh, well, it's okay. I mean, it's okay that they find their stuff. You just got to find that balance of truth and love. Here's the fourth misuse or misunderstanding. They react wrongly to God's purposes in allowing people to suffer. Now listen to that. They can react wrongly to God's purposes in allowing people to suffer. Now I want you to think about this. Disobedience leads to correction. You realize that, right? Disobedience leads to correction. Jesus Christ said, if you're my son, I will chasten you. And He uses that word that we call a bad word, and it is if you're using it wrong. But He said, you're not bastards, you're sons. A bastard is someone who doesn't know who their father is, and that's why it's ugly. Because never should you, overbear somebody who doesn't know who their father is. What fault is that of their own? That's why it's used as an ugly word. But Jesus said, "You're not people who don't have a father, who don't know who your father is. I am your father, and because I am your father, I will correct you." Now, people with a gift of mercy, you got to back up sometimes and say, "It's in your head." Sometimes I think God's correcting them. God is clearly just bringing them back, And sometimes they will react wrongly to that. And then listen to this. Sometimes it may be in consequence of this, but listen to this. God always allows suffering to bring about spiritual growth and maturity. And while we want to bring help and assistance to people in these situations, don't just remove them from God's correction. We need God's correction. Listen to me. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. I mean, y'all, everybody looked up like, what's she about to say? You believe it too. We need trials. We need trials. They make us stronger. Guy I'm listening to, Cochran and Company, that sings that song, Take Me, he sings the song Church. He's got another song, but he said, I would never, if I never knew the brokenness, I would never know the mend. That's so true. We need trials. We need adversities because they bring about maturity and they bring about faith. So you people with a gift of mercy, back up a little bit and let God do in people's lives what He's trying to accomplish in their lives. Here's the fifth one. They may tend to be possessive in friendships of the time and attention of others. I don't know that I've ever observed that. I don't know where he's coming from with that. But he said people with a gift of mercy, they are sometimes possessive in friendships of time and attention of others. And I feel like it just goes back to that characteristic he said where they measure closeness by physical proximity. So maybe they have a tendency to think that this person, if they really love me, then they ought to want to spend all kinds of time with me. I'm not really sure where he's gauging that by. Here is the sixth characteristic, or misuse or misunderstanding. They have an overreaction to insincerity in others and shut them off rather than helping them. So I want you to listen. They often overreact to insincerity in others and shut them off rather than helping them. So when they see somebody being unsincere, non-sincere, using the system as they would say it, coming and asking for help when they know they don't genuinely need help, because that steps on every fiber of their being. See, they're all about helping somebody, right? But people who are insincere, people who want to come in and say that they've had a death in the family, can we please take up some money when nobody's even died? Man. And Tom Rush said the person with the gift of mercy would be so put off by that they would overreact and they would just cut that person off. There would be no mercy for them. And he says you got to kind of find a middle ground. You're going to encounter some insincere, non-sincere people. You just got to learn to deal with them. Don't overreact to them. Here's the seventh and the last misuse or misunderstanding. And I think it is such a true warning. Listen to this. Persons of the opposite sex will be drawn to someone with mercy. Persons of the opposite sex will be drawn to someone with mercy. You know why? Because they'd love to come crying to you about how their marriage is crumbling. And how, of course, it's not their fault, but it's their spouse's fault, and they ain't nothing but a good, loving, hard-working man. And this woman just takes, she just takes him for granted. Could you not just see this? Because listen, with every gift, the devil's got a pitfall that comes with it. I mean, honestly, to the person with a gift of exhortation, to the person with a gift of prophecy or the gift of teaching, pride comes along with it. Because the devil would love to get us to fall into a trap of pride. To feel like, man, you really are great. When people say you're great, man, you really are great. And you're so great, you don't even need the Lord to help you in this. You just go about and do your own thing. Just set your own course. That's the weakness that comes with a gift. And Tom Rush says one weakness that comes with a gift of mercy is you'll draw people of the opposite sex. Let me just tell you the advice that he gives. You better limit your ministry to those of the same sex. See, he said that to another gift too. I don't remember which one it was. One of those gifts. He said, what was it? Prophecy. He said, you limit your ministry to people who are of the same sex. And it just makes me sick to know that that's how the devil tries to work. Listen, once I figured out the whole picture really of spiritual warfare, I began to hear things differently. And when I hear of a pastor who's involved in a moral failure or this, the secretary that runs off with this, church leader, yeah, it makes me mad. And yeah, I think, man, that shouldn't have happened. But I think, man, the devil. Is he not so sneaky conniving? Does he not just prey on church people and church leaders and church servants? I mean, I even heard of a preacher who came out of the closet and he was gay. I don't think that man was no more gay than the man in the moon, but I know that that's the way the devil preys on people who are trying to work in a ministry for the Lord. And Tom Rush said, you got to watch that because people will be drawn to you. Don't you let no man come crying to you about his marriage crumbling, because the next thing you'll be doing is you'll be trying to fix that marriage. And then you'll be telling him the weaknesses of your spouse. And oh my gosh, your spouse, your wife, he does the same thing. She does the same thing to you that my husband does to me. Wouldn't we be so great for each other? I'm just telling you how the devil works. We've seen it 1,000 times. So Tom Rush gives a warning about that. I love this quote right here. Surely, if God could extend mercy to us, we should be able to extend it to others. Surely, if God could extend mercy to us, we ought to be able to extend it to others. I want you to look, as we do every week, at how Jesus was the ultimate example of mercy. See, not only in his sacrificial death for us, because isn't mercy not giving people what they deserve? That's what mercy is, how we define it. Not only did Jesus come and die for us when we didn't deserve it, I want you to listen to this verse. Turn with me to Luke chapter 4. I love this. I was reading it again this morning, and I thought I really liked that verse a lot. Luke chapter 4, verse number 18. Jesus said this, and I thought, that just exemplifies, it just shows how much he was a man of mercy. Luke chapter 4, verse number 18, it's written in red. He said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel. I want you to listen to this, to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Listen to those people who are recipients of his gospel message. Listen to those words. They just really stood out to me. He said the poor, the brokenhearted, the captives, the blind, and the bruised. I don't know about you, but I'm thankful that Jesus Christ is the ultimate man of mercy. Those 5 categories, none of them sound like they're great categories to be in, but that's exactly where he found me, and it's exactly where he found you. And you know, this was one of the convicting verses when I'd already been saved. I'd been saved, but when God turned my world upside down. You know, in the Gospels, Jesus said, I didn't come for the ones that are whole. I came for the ones who are sick. He said, those that are whole need not a physician. So where God really pegged me on that is I boasted so much in my wholeness, man. I really had this together. I mean, I read this thing and I'm devoted to this Bible. I pay my tithes on every 10 cents on the dollar, man. I don't find myself falling into this sin, and I don't find myself falling into that sin, and I sure don't find myself falling into that sin. And I dress right, I act right, I don't do this, I don't go there, I don't have problems with that. And I remember reading that verse and it said, those who are whole don't need a physician. And I thought, man, all I do is brag about how whole I am. I mean, honestly. And that's when God began to convict me of my own self-righteousness, that by my own mouth, I disqualified myself from Jesus' ministry. Jesus said, I came for the ones who are sick. I came for the sinners. He says right here, I came for the poor, the brokenhearted, the captives, the blind, and those who are bruised. So be careful when all you do is lift yourself up about how whole you are, how well-sighted you are, how perfect and put together you are, because you will by your own tongue disqualify yourself from the very ministry that Jesus Christ came and the people that he came to minister to. And I love that he was the ultimate example of mercy. Last quote and we'll be done. He said, many of God's people are hurting in ways that are not seen by most. And those with this gift of mercy who are sensitive to the Holy Spirit can be a great blessing to someone who needs a word of encouragement. Blessed is the congregation who receives the ministry of those gifted with mercy.